The US is well on its way. In the last 2 months, we've seen astronomical progress from a point that US automotive manufacture came to a screeching halt, and we were virtually begging China to give us some rare earths, both in Geneva and London, to at a point now where the US government is the biggest owner in an unprecedented move of the biggest rare earths company here in the United States. We have a price floor that's close to double current prices that the government has committed to paying. We're building new permanent magnet manufacturing facilities. This is really a story that when the US sets its mind to something, it can do it, and it can do it quickly.
Well, on that, we spoke to James Litinsky last week of MP Materials. It's the day the company struck this multi-billion-dollar public-private deal with the U.S. Department of Defense to build this new magnet plant, expand rare earth capabilities. It's backed by $400 million in equity and a $1 billion loan commitment. Here's what he said about that deal.
The government wants to achieve an important national security objective, and we at MP are able to help them achieve that objective. And so they are going to help support us in accelerating investment in our space, and they're going to create the conditions that allow us to invest with a fair return on capital and not be attacked, so to speak, by mercantilism. And in exchange for that, they're going to expect some upside. And so again, I think this is, hopefully it's a new model that we can utilize across some of these verticals that are really challenging for us, where we've been unable to fully reshore industries because we're facing competition that is thinking differently.
That's James Litinsky of MP Materials just last week on our program. The Department of Defense, Gracelin, is positioned to become the company's largest shareholder. What is your view on this? Is this what's needed to boost critical minerals and rare earths in the U.S.?
There's two important things to consider about this equity. The first is that it will bring in a return to the American taxpayer, and it already is. When share price is increased, that means that the US taxpayer is getting a return on that investment. That's a big deal. The second thing that's important is there is no bigger signal to the private sector than having government ownership. So as the government went in for equity, we saw companies like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs also come to the table with a significant amount of capital. Because where there is a project challenge or a hiccup, it's more likely to get resolved when it's part owned by the government. So this is a really powerful step in terms of mobilizing private capital, but also in terms of creating a more financially sustainable model that will yield a return, both in terms of actual security of minerals and magnets, but also a return on the investment.
So we know that Apple made a strategic commitment to MP, and we also know that the Department of Defense also did the same. How does those two alter the geopolitical landscape of rare earth supply chains? And will it prompt other countries or other tech defense players to follow suit?
Apple's move to invest into MP really signifies how executives are relooking at the supply chain. There was a time not too long ago where we thought about minerals, we thought about processing, and then manufacturing. But now we're starting to look at it as a vertically integrated mine to manufactured goods supply chain, because a disruption at any point in that supply chain stops it. Now, for a company like Apple, this is really important. When we started talking about tariffs, the beginning of the year, and two, potential, rare earth disruptions, we started looking at what the cost of an iPhone could increase to. An iPhone is an incredibly price-sensitive good. The average American consumer can't easily go from paying $1,000 a phone to $1,400 a phone if those rare earths become more expensive or more difficult to access. So for a company like Apple, ensuring that there is that reliability of supply is really critical. It also makes sure that it is an American supply chain, which is really important for this administration.